I typically kick the episodes off by having the guests tell us who they are and what it is.
Okay. I grew up in southern Germany, Bavaria, on a farm. We had horses since my childhood, so I grew up with horses. And yeah, my decision after finishing school was to become a veterinarian. So I went to vet school in Munich. In the European or German system for to get a spot in the university in my young years was you need a certain degree, you need a certain, how must I say, you have to be good enough in school to get a place in your university immediately. And if you're not one of the best, you have to wait. There was a waiting list system. I had to wait a few years, so my choice was I become a professional rider. So I went through an apprenticeship in a place in southern Germany, a eventing brand, and then the last almost 2 years in Warendorf in the German Equestrian Federation, in a place where all the German professionals finally come up to finish their final tests to become a professional rider. So I spent my last almost 2 years in this place. Okay, I became a veterinarian, and I came back to Warendorf, which was the place. I became a professional rider, a Bereiter, and so it was the same town. I was there as a veterinarian now. And then they asked me if I could take over the classes, the final classes for the young professional riders in a certain, so the class covering all the veterinary questions. I said, yes, I would love to do. And I did this. And we trained this class a little bit in sense of not the classical questions about vaccinations and how can you diagnose some sicknesses or some lameness or whatever. I said, this is something if you are a professional and you don't know, you ask your veterinarian anyhow. So I said, come on, let's take the horse's anatomy and question ourselves why does our classical riding instruction system tell us a young horse needs this shoulder in, is this because of, and this is the mistake. And yeah, so all the questions behind the classical system I know now after 30 years of working with this in this field, the classical system is logical and following the horse's anatomy 100%. And there is no shortcut, there is no detour, this is just the truth. It's a system developed for the horse. So we called this almost 30 years ago the biomechanics of the horse. And I call today, because everybody uses the word biomechanics and it wants to be cool, I call it understanding our brain system out of the horse's physiology and anatomy. And of course, to know what you talk about, you have to study, you have to read the old masters of, let's say, the 21st. There's only, I would say, one book of our century, the 20th century, the 19th century, and maybe the 18th century. So the last 200 to 300 years, you should try to read and understand, and then the whole system becomes clear. It's a little bit, it got lost. It got lost because we live in a time people have no time.
Mm.
So they want a quick fix. They want to join a training, a clinic, and then they want to be, because now they know and they saw a few things, then they know and they go home. Learning to ride, I usually quote Charles de Confi, who died last week,
Mhm.
a wonderful horseman. And thank God I had the chance to work with him several times. And Charles always said, and I remember him answering a lady's question. The lady asked him, she says, Mr. de Confi, how long does it take? I really want to do what you just explained in your presentation. And then he said, young lady, you can learn this, but you have to ride a few thousand different horses. And if you can learn the basics in 25 years. Yeah, I love to quote him because this clarifies there is no quick fix. Even you are the most talented person and most privileged because you have a family with money and they buy you the best horses. Of course, it's easier to produce a good picture, but to learn to ride, to train a horse, this takes so much more than just get a horse's head down. Yeah, but we will talk about this today.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely I always think there's 2 camps of riders in the beginning of any rider's professional career, where there's the riders that are really good at producing young horses, and then there's the riders that are really good at competing, and eventually the goal is for the rider that's good at producing the horses to eventually get the skill set of competing, and the competing rider to eventually get the skill set of producing a horse, but it's hard to start with both skills. So, when we're talking about this classical way of training, what exactly are you referencing?
We have a few publications we should refer to. I would say the most well-known book most of our or some of our colleagues know is Gustav Steinbrecht, Gymnasium of the Horse. It's available in English in America. This is a book published in 1884. Steinbrecht died a year earlier, so pupils of him published this book. It was almost finished. Somebody finished the last chapters. But this is, I would say, this is the Bible our system is built on. You know? So our training system in our federations, in the American Federation, the German Federation, all the federations who compete and who talk about the training scale, more or less, this house is built on Steinbrecht's Gymnasium of the Horse. There are only very few missing pieces. In the late 19th century, it didn't have the 2-point seat, the light seat. Light seat was added to the to Steinbrecht's book in the early 20th century. So Mr. Caprilli, an Italian officer, showed up around late 19th, early 20th century. Suddenly he started to jump in a funny seat because up to him, they were leaning backwards when they jump a fence. Yeah, I don't know if you know these old pictures 150 years ago, people jumping in a fox hunting,
Mm.
leaning backwards over a ditch or in whatever. Yeah. And so Caprilli came up with the 2-point. The German officers were very critical at the beginning. They didn't want any change. Of course, many older horse people are very conservative. They don't want change. And he felt that it's much easier for the horse to get a round curve over the jump when you give the horse freedom to the back. So the 2-point seat made the whole story round. You can say Steinbrecht plus Caprilli and some smaller points you can add. Finally came up 1912. In the rule book, we call it 8DV12. It's called Heeresdienstverordnung. So a rule book for the military, for the soldier. And it was published in June 1912. This was the first writing instruction, you can say, accepted all over the world. And finally, this little booklet became mother, father, and everything, and grandfather and grandmother of our rule book, of our guidelines. So this is, you can say, the foundation.
Right.
And yeah, and only in the 1970s, they came up with a training scale, but the training scale was in this first book, Between the Lines.
Yep,
You know?
okay. And now when we're talking about clearly the sport has changed in the
Mhm.
last 300 years. So, when we're looking at current competition horses, be that in any discipline, I personally invent, but I think dressage is a very flamboyant sport that's easy to point things out in. When we're looking at the sport today, where does this original foundation fit into the current sport? Because it feels like the sport has shifted away from a correct way of producing horses. And I think some of it has to do with the horses now are bred so different that to some of these gangly horses to try to get all the legs in one square is a workout all on its own. So, how do we keep this foundation while still producing horses in an ethical way, but also to be successful?
Okay. You have to interrupt me a few times, otherwise I talk 1 hour now. Yeah, because this is the point. We are running into a dead end road because I think we all talk about classical. People don't know what classical means. And because you don't know what classical means, and you just take the modern horse and you just take what this horse seems to give you, you run into problems. Let me translate this. A well trained horse, a horse in balance, is a horse who, when let's stay with this basic dressage work, because this is the foundation for dressage, for eventing, for jumping. A well trained horse listening to your aids, waiting for your seat, not running away. And yeah, so when I use the term dressage, I talk about these basics we need for all the different disciplines. We are not talking, because this is another big chapter, about training systems within different cultures. In your country, your Western horses, completely different culture, different physiology, different psychology, different anatomy, different biomechanics. Bullfighting, Spain, Portugal,
Mm,
cattle work, yeah, Lusitanos, Bear His, traditional. I'm not talking about the modern sport. They
mhm.
try to shift to the sport, but the tradition, completely different. Yeah. So this is another long talk. Yeah. And but of course you have to talk about this, because otherwise, because people have all these horses and they put everything in one pot, they get a little bit around and they pick things they think they fit, and they have no really, they don't know what they pick. So let's come back to the classical riding, the three classical disciplines. A horse. And let me start with, let's say, experiences you might have as a young eventing rider. A horse who is not in balance. What are they doing? What are sport horse usually? Mostly they curl in and run. They have you, because they curl in and run. We will come back to the details in a minute. It is not, you are not able to get this horse straight, which means to both reins. You freeze the situation that you have a heavy rein and a loose rein. You have a hard time to turn to one side. On the other side, an experienced rider might think the turn is easy, but the horse bends the neck. In a less experienced rider, the horse might disappear over the outside shoulder. The horse brings the inside hind leg in, a sort of fake haunches in. All this, we know these problems. So a very obvious crookedness in the horse you don't like at all, and it's hard to get rid of. Most people pull on the inside rein of the stiff side to get rid of this, which is wrong. Yeah, but maybe later if you get there. So one symptom,
Yeah.
curl, run. Others, stiff, lazy, don't go. The minority, they freeze, they just don't go anymore. It is impossible to bend a horse like this. It is impossible to get a horse collected like this, the true collection. You can go fast and slow. Charles de Conti says cockroach dressage, yeah? Flashy front leg, less flashy, but the body stays the same. So no change of frame, no throughness, no true bend. People don't know what bending is.
Yeah.
They think, well, the neck inside is bending. Yeah. Bending. Steinbeck writes 126 pages about bending.
It.
And there is a sentence just to give you an idea. We don't bend in the first year, because if you try to bend too early, you run into a dead end road.
It.
You cannot bend a horse who is heavy on one rein and loose to the other. And if you abuse the width to bend to get the horse straight, it is as if you take a 3-year-old kid who has problems in the kindergarten and you take him to university to fix the kindergarten problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bending is high school and university, and taking both reins is the kindergarten. But we come back to this. So in all these negative things, and at the first, at the real end of the negative story, you have either spooky horse, a rearing horse, a rein lame horse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the problems I work with since 30 years. People show up in your country, especially, and say, yeah, I have a psychologist come in for my horse because the horse is spooky since so many years, always in the same corner. My answer is, you maybe need a psychologist, the horse does not. And the horse just shows you that your horse is stiff.
Yeah.
A flight animal stiff is in flight mode.
Yeah.
Suppleness. Yeah, you understand. Suppleness, a really soft horse, I will give you the description in a minute, will not bolt and will not rear and will not run away. All the problems I try to explain and to point out are finally the problems we create, not enough knowledge about how to balance a young horse in the first 2 to 3 years. And as a result, the horse's back is locked. So the horse's center of motion, the back is stiff. And if you stiffen a flight animal's back, this flight animal, 85% runs,
Yeah.
behaves defensive. You cannot sit. Yeah, you're bouncing around. You brace your own body. So the bad circle is starting. So if you are stiff, the horse is stiff. If your shoulders are stiff, the horse is, you have locked hands, locked wrists. You cannot have a wonderful soft hand if your body is locked. You cannot, he says, and addresses this to the trainer. You cannot correct a rider's hand because you can try as often as you want and as long as you want, you will not succeed because the rider's hand is created in the seat. If you have a wonderful, beautiful, elegant, soft seat, which is not a loose seat, but a nice, friendly seat with the horse, not against the horse, not on the horse, yeah, then you have a wonderful hand, and so on. Okay, so long story short, if you have a horse's back, which is a nice big swing, we want a high swing in the classical system, a cowboy wants no swing and a calm mouth. We want a big swing, but a soft swing. The Masoni, the next Bible, the way to perfect horsemanship, or horsemanship. I'm not sure. I always mix it up. Either horsemanship or the way to perfect horsemanship. Both books are worth to read. But Soini is incredible. He says, if you ride a supple horse, you have no chance not to sit. The horse just takes you. Yeah. You swing with the horse in front, sitting front, as if you canter. Yeah. In canter, even a unbalanced horse just takes you. In trot, a balanced horse takes you, an unbalanced horse bounces you. Oh, it's about the back. So, did you, in which area of your country do you live? Have you been in mountain areas?
Yes.
Did you hike with a backpack?
Yes.
So, we take almost 40-pound backpack. You're a small lady, so you get a heavy backpack. So you hike uphill. The first step's uphill. What are you doing? You compensate. Yes.
Coming
You
forward
use,
body.
we have quite a solid head and a short neck. So the horse has a longer neck in comparison to its body, a smaller head, but similar. So you use your head and your neck to compensate the additional weight. So does the horse. Let's say you have a nice horse, prepared, friendly. You are his friend. He accepts you. You can sit on it. Everything is fine. And suddenly he has a weight on his back. Then this horse says, oh, okay, I need to use my neck a little bit. to get this guy balanced
Yeah.
so that he's not destroying my movements, my motion, or my three gaits. Okay, here is the point. If you read the old masters, you will learn that any way to form a horse's poll and a horse's neck mechanically with your hands is the entrance door to the dead end road. Yeah? We do not form a horse's poll and neck. Everything in front of you is what you get. You get beautiful form, but you get it. Your first goal, and here is that because in your introduction, you were talking about the change in the breed. And I just had a longer talk with our new president of the German Federation, which is the biggest horse federation in the world. We have 300 employees in this federation. And I said, we were discussing these problems. And I said, you, the whole system was not adjusted to the modern horse. What did we improve? I tried to make this thing short and easy. You could talk another half a day about this, but the key points we changed in the last 40, 50 years. Bigger horses, big movements, big walk, big monster trot, big canter. Super high rideability. When I was a young guy and we had a horse standing in front and in the final test, in the Beretta test, we had to explain what we see. Yeah? So we had to evaluate the anatomy in a horse, in a living horse. Most of the horses we have today, we would call Schwanenhals. Schwanenhals means the neck of a swan, too long, too flexible neck. Challenge of our time is to get a young horse's neck who is under a rider, not round, because this is what they anyhow do. This ears out and the nose in front. If we would care that these baby horses in the first 2, better 3 years learn to carry a rider in walk, trot, and canter, not fancy, nice and balanced, just natural, with a slightly convex top line. Egon von Meindorf, one of the masters in Germany, says, ears as far away from you as possible, with a soft paw and horse to the bit. And our top riders would have a completely different horse, which finally has the back up, which has the back soft, and the hind legs swing under. You had a natural, nice gait. Today, just 100 years ago, when you started the baby horse, you put a rider on. He says, okay, he's allowed to sit there, but it's not very usual to me. I feel a little bit uncomfortable. The horse braces a little bit or a little bit more against the rider's weight. 100 years ago, the horse would do this. Nose up to the sky, everything stiff. One of these really old guys who died 8 years ago, the last two guys died 8 years ago, and Charles Country died the last week, who in the age of 100, they said, when we were young, sometimes it took us a year, maybe 1.5 years to get the horse around.
Yeah.
Today, you mount a baby horse, he braces his back in the same way than 100 years ago. But he doesn't do this, he does this. And most uneducated young people or idiots who should know it but don't care accept a curling neck because it looks so cool in the mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah? You see the 2.5-year-old stallion with a neck like this. He goes like this, or front legs go like this. And these kids who sit on these young horses think, wow, they look so cool. Yeah? And they think they are good riders because the outline looks fancy.
Yeah.
And this is the entrance door to hell, the first step on the stairways down. Because to destroy the horse's balance. When the neck is curved like this, yeah, let's say our horse goes this direction, you have a neck like this, super round, then the back is also round, but
Inverted.
hollow. The neck drops. If you uncurl this neck, if you straighten the top line, if you get him out in about horizontal, yeah, because then the nuchal ligament connecting the head to the spinous processes of the withers, the neck falls into this ligament, the top line of the neck connects to the back, and then the back can straighten, is more straight. And this horse, if you ride this horse forward to get a contact, the rib cage comes up between the shoulder blades, open up, and we call this the horse is in balance or in self carriage. The horse carries himself, or we say the horse is a back mover. The horse comes up, and this is this phase in a young horse's life is not very fancy. The horse trots normal, not very spectacular. The outline is very babyish. Yeah. Long story short, I don't know how deep you want to go into details. I can talk 12 hours about this in my presentation. We have one in my US trip in May. If you want to know, I can tell you in a minute. This foundation is missing in maybe 99% of our sport horses. Nobody gives a horse time to pass the kindergarten. Rhythm, suppleness, contact, to bring the rib cage up, to get the neck out, to get the back swing, to make the horse straight, to get even contact to both reins. Yeah. And this only works if you get the horse out. A forked curled horse will never take the loose rein.
Mhm.
In a horse who is too long in front, you cannot get a contact at all. You only can take the reins and hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we have the horse either as a baby or maybe even further along in its career because that issue was never addressed, one, what does that mean for the horse as it develops? And then how, as a rider, can I best support my horse to either try to work out of that or build them up biomechanically better despite having the curling and
You have, if you, if your goal is to ride a horse correct, keep him sound, happy, strong, and healthy, you have no choice. You have to try to enter the correct roads. There's no other choice. Otherwise, you need an armada of physiotherapists and veterinarians. We all live from bad riding. Everybody who works with orthopedics makes his money with bad riding. Yeah. And all the big universities who have these rehab places and do all this blah, 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 blah. I said, it's important to have this
Mhm.
because we will never have, we will never have 100% good riders. Yeah. Because you need to be a talented person. You need to have empathy. You need to have the feel for the moment. You need to have knowledge. You need to have experience. Learning to ride. I told you, you remember my Dr. Gerd quote, takes not 5 years, not 10 years, it takes 30, 40 years to really learn. You have to ride everything bigger than a sheep on four legs. Yeah. And sit down and diagnose this animal's back, get a feel for the back, get the feel for the hind legs, get feel for the balance, get feel for contact, and then help this horse find balance. Get rid of the title, I am a backpack full of stones, become an harmonious dance partner. So these are pictures you can use, yeah, to build the house.
for sure. And as say I have a horse, I'm either an amateur or I just have this one horse I ride, and I'm an intermediate level rider. Intermediate in terms of competitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I get onto the right path with my horse once they've developed?
Okay.
The
When you are an intermediate rider, so this means you are to a certain level an experienced rider. You are experienced. Your software, I always say most people, okay, let's say you show up to one of my clinics and we meet for the first time. So I usually say, please show me your horse. First, you explain a little bit, you give me a little history about you and your horse, and so that I understand the whole concept. And then I usually ask the riders who work with me, mostly for the first time, I ask them, how would you describe the problems you have with your horse? Because every rider has some issues. And it helps a lot to diagnose yourself because most people have a certain level of knowledge and they run into problems, but the knowledge they have doesn't offer solution. And this is finally what you asked me. And then the answer is very simple. I mostly say my first sentence, which doesn't help you now, but it describes the situation. I say, okay, I can see you're an experienced rider. You have a wonderful horse. You have very good basic elements in your seat. The software is wrong. Most people have the wrong software. Most people ride horses, but they have no plan what they do. They have the horse is head down, mostly behind the vehicle. Then they take a contact, they call it contact, hold it in, and then they think it is about tricks.
mm,
Yeah. So when the horse's head is down, you can stop and go, and you maybe can walk toward killers somehow, good or bad, but somehow. Then training starts. Then the question is how to make him go lateral, do a flying change, and maybe jump a fence.
mhm,
This is what the jumper does today. Yeah. If they don't call themselves, they put a drawing on, pull him down, and then they run against a fence.
yeah,
And if the horse runs too much because the back is stiff like a brick or a piece of wood, they pull more. And if the horse is not fast enough, they spur him and whip him. So they work with a very rough and very bad throttle and a brake. That's it.
okay.
They don't train a horse because they don't know what
Mm,
training is. There is no system in their brain. What is the next step? What do I look for first? What are the points I look for the first 6 weeks, the first 3 months, the first 6 months, the first half year, the second half year, the third half year, the fourth half year? The classical system gives us a solid, clear structure. And of course, it is not important that you fulfill every single step exactly month two or whatever, yeah? But if you have a certain
timeline or
line in structure in your head, then you can ride a horse. And if you are experienced enough and rode many horses, everything clarifies more and more. And then you know what to do. To answer your question, you have a mid-level horse, let's say a one-star eventer, and the horse is running, the horse is behind the vertical, and in certain situations he's against the bit. So he goes in, or he's not to the bit, he's black against, white behind.
yeah,
The back is stiff, the turns are uneven, I must say, not the same. The turn to the left is very stiff, the horse is on the inside rein,
yeah, it's
and
asymmetrical.
he, yeah, so there's no symmetry, there's no throughness, there's no waiting for the seat, the horse is not in front of the driving leg, the horse runs away or is behind you and stops. Long story short, back to the kindergarten. Of course, in an older horse, and if the horse is not damaged yet and he's still healthy, you have to turn the wheel back. And you must say, the first thing I need is a balanced horse. I gave you this description. A balanced horse is a horse who drops the neck into the nuchal ligament. The horse lets go, not I pull him down or I use a piece of leather to get him down. The horse's neck has to fall into the nuchal ligament. So this enables this horse when the only arm of a lever this animal has to compensate the backpack rider. You understand? Head and neck is the only arm of a lever the horse has to compensate. And then when the horse's neck is long enough and the neck drops, this horse's back can say, oh, okay. Oh, thank God. I don't have to brace because the neck keeps me up. Yeah. Uh, Come back to my little comparison. Let's say you ride a German or a Dutch. You hike in the mountains and your backpack is German or Dutch and has two hands. So you hike uphill and the two hands of the backpack pull your head down, chin to the stone like this, roll core. You have to hike uphill. Just make your own opinion. In a second, the backpack turns to be a French backpack, Philip Carl, Mr. Boucher. The neck has to be up. You have a backpack on your back and you hike uphill.
Yeah, yeah. You
And
might not be hiking
suddenly,
uphill.
and suddenly, the backpack is one of these helpless idiots we see everywhere in the warm-up and pulls you the neck to the side. So like this, and then you hike uphill.
Yeah,
You understand what we
yeah,
do?
yeah. Just inhibiting the horse from being able to.
Catastrophe. Steinbrecht gives us one sentence. Never bend the neck more you are able to bend the horse's trunk.
Hmm.
In my teaching, I tell the people, we bend horses, not necks. And you only can bend a horse when the horse is straight first. You cannot bend unbalanced crooked horse. It has something to do with when the rib cage is low, is sunk, a major element of the bending because the horse is trunk, the horse's body, not the neck. The neck is flexible like your spine. But between the withers and the sacrum, the whole horse's the body can bend very little only. Some say 4 to 5 degrees, some say 7. Very little. So this horse's thoracic and lumbar spine can maybe bend enough for a 20-meter circle, but of course cannot bend to 10, 8, or 6 meters. Impossible. But it is possible. You can ride a 6-meter volte. What happens? You get a trunk rotation you want. A crooked horse on the hollow side has also a trunk rotation, but this is the false trunk rotation. This is a trunk rotation which takes the outside shoulder out, the neck in, the haunches in, and you have this crooked animal. And if you get the horse straight first, neck on withers level, to the bit, rib cage up, and you work the horse in a trunk rotation, then the horse is not disappearing over the outside shoulder, it's not running away with the inside hind leg, then the horse is lowering the inside hip, and you flex the haunches inside. Bending is a way to collection. To bend the horse takes 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8 years. It's a very slow process. Steinweg, if you have the maximum bend a horse's skeleton can give you, you are on high school collection. So the synonym of bending is collection.
Okay.
Today, people think collection is pulling on the reins,
Yeah, shortening the frame.
but you cannot shorten the frame. Most people shorten the neck.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
croup is high, the seat bones are out, the trunk is not changing. It just pulls the neck in. It throws out people up, show jumpers down, but lower, yeah? But not. This is no collection. Collection is when the horse sits. Flex is the lumbar-sacral joint, when the hip joint, the stifle, the hock, and the toe joint, the whole, all the joints of the haunch, the hind legs, sink in the weight-bearing phase. And to get there, this is a very slow process of bending a horse over years. No knowledge. People don't know. People just don't know. They don't try to collect a horse and what they need before they start to collect a horse. Classical riding needs knowledge. And this is, and now the Baroque people, the Spanish, the Portuguese show up, yeah, with the bullfighting riding. And because the horse is too a little bit stressed on the spot, they think they are dressage riders. They are not. They have no idea about the true classical system.
Yeah.
And especially Americans and Europeans love this beautiful white horses, and then they buy these horses for a lot of money. Yeah, it's that's our horse world is a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess. It's a mess. No knowledge, no willingness to read a book. No, yeah,
Yeah.
I have to say,
So when you're looking at the horse world, and I'm assuming we're speaking of the competitive world of horses, but maybe we're just talking about all the
yeah,
horse
yeah.
stuff. When you look at it and you dissect it to look at the root problem, is the root problem the lack of education or lack of empathy? Or what do you think?
Everything. Lack of education, lack of empathy, and being patient enough not to take too much from the baby horse. The baby horse offers you this beautiful outline at the very beginning, immediately. And if you just take it, you ruin it.
Yeah.
Compare it. You an adult woman, let me give you a comparison. Take one of these 12 or 13-year-old kids, girls, early mature, they look like young women. So there are some idiots out there. They rape a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Even maybe even she falls in love with this guy, whatever. Her soul, she is damaged for the rest of her life. We rape every single horse today, almost 100%. The baby horses, the baby horses who get the saddle on the back in Germany, nobody respects these horses. They just jump on, take the reins, pull them back in, and hope not to be parked up. And if they survive and they are not parked off, put him to the stall back, and then he's a riding horse. Nobody has respect for horse's mouth, a horse's paw, or horse's back.
So,
You
how did we get so far gone? How did we get so lost down this new way of?
in the 60s, in the late 60s, I'm born in the late 50s, so I'm 65 now. When I was a young guy, up to the 70s, most trainers would cut your hands off if you pull on the horse's mouth. Today, nobody cares. We had principles. My I have an explanation why I think we are there. Of course, this is experience, and I saw many things in the last 30 years. So I think it's a maybe there's maybe it is true. What I want to say is it's an opinion. It's my opinion. So we had these principles. I'll give you a small story. In the late 70s, no, it was I started my apprenticeship 78. I finished 81, I think. Yes. So a week before my final test uh, as the writer, I was on duty in my barn. It was an official barn in Warendorf, the German riding school. So this means I had to do all the stable work and so on. And I was alone. Nobody was there. And my boss, Dr. Wolfgang Holzl, he gave me his private stallion for the for my final test. I was allowed to ride this horse. Big honor. And because I and there was of course there was another guy around in the whole little town of Weirendorf, in the Olympic Committee, in the National Stud, in the German Riding School. This guy was more or less everywhere. He was maybe in his late 60s when I was there as a young guy. Mr. Donner, Thunder, Donner. He had two wooden legs from the war.
Yeah.
He lost two legs, one below just below the knee, and one leg above the knee. And he had 5 or 6 different riding teacher degrees in the cavalry school. So these were highly qualified people. So when he was, just to give you a picture, a wonderful guy. I love this man. And he was the god in Barendorf, in this town. Okay. But my boss was Dr. Heuschmann, and he was, I don't know where, and I was on duty Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. Okay. Saturday, thinking I'm alone. I put the saddle on Dr. Wolfgang Holzl's stallion, and I wanted to of course, be one of the best in my final test. And I trained in the big arena. We had a big arena, indoor arena, 80 by 30 meters. And I chased this 5-year-old stallion in a big show trot on the diagonal. I did all the bad stuff, you know? So on the short side, in the first floor, was a big window, which was closed by a curtain. Behind it was the teaching room, the classroom. When I chased my stallion down the diagonal, I saw the curtain move a little bit. And from this moment, it took maybe 1.5 minutes. And old Mr. Donner on his two crutches and two wooden legs, he had to run down the whole aisle. He had to go down the stairs. He had to come back the hallway and come in. And he was screaming, "We don't need a stupid guy in an apprenticeship from Bavaria to destroy our stallions. If we want to destroy the stallions, we do it on our own. Dismount the horse now." And I was not allowed to ride anymore up to my final test. So I had to broom to clean the yards 1 week long.
Y-
It was a major
Ego check.
mistake to do something like this. Today, nobody cares.
Yeah.
It is normal. So then, in the late 60s, 70s, up to this time, 60s, it was normal in the stallion licensing that the stable master, the boss of these national studs, the horse breeding was organized at the state. This means the state owned the stallions. There were national studs with 200, 300 stallions. And in springtime, the stable master, Landstallmeister, decided this and this stallion goes to this farm. This goes to this farm because he knew all the mares. And he says, okay, if this area we have a lot of mares like this, we need this bloodline there. He sends it here. So he organized the breeding, and it was unwritten rule that the stable master buys the winner of the stallion licensing, and he has free choice for the premium stallions. And he usually bought, it depends on the size of the natural stud, between, let me say, up to 15 stallions, sometimes 8, 10, 12, 15 stallions. So suddenly, and there was also an unwritten law that the winner of the stallion licensing, the farmer who bred the owner of the stallion, the breeder, he got 60 or 80,000 German marks, which is maybe $30 or $40,000 in comparison. Yeah. Okay. So this was a lot of money for these guys, but there was no different price up to this time. Suddenly, rich farmers from Oldenburg and Hanover showed up and said, I want this winner of the stallion licensing. Some breeders said, no, the Landstallmeister, the stable master gets it. But then the farmer said, I give you 300,000. Okay. Then the farmer says, okay, even I lose the friendship to the stable master, this is just too much money. So suddenly money won against 100 years, a system which grew over, let's say, 200-300 years.
Yeah.
You understand? And then this private owner of the stallion showed him in wintertime, and he tried to impress all these breeders and get as many mares as possible. And he showed the 3-year-old stallion this trot. And then in springtime, this super spectacular stallion licensing winner stallion showed up in a small local competition in a test for young horses. There was a correct trained mare or gelding, neck out, nose is on the vertical, young was trot, and suddenly there was this stallion licensing winner stallion. So now, 300-400 of these breeders standing around the ring, and the judge has to give golden ribbon to the gelding, maybe the nice and spectacular, correctly trained baby horse, but the fancy stallion, everybody knows 300,000 and suddenly in wrestling winner and blah, 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 blah. Suddenly, a major pressure to this judge.
Mm.
And yeah, in some cases, maybe the judge said, sorry, this gelding has to win. But then there are 300 breeders who say, oh, yeah, you understand?
Yeah.
There suddenly this pressure came from the breeding into the sport. And step by step, we got used to the wrong motion, to the wrong frame, to the wrong idol. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is much easier to take a horse's rein short, hold him in, push against, squeeze him, and make him trot like this, than to swing with a horse in an elegant, upright, soft seat, horse to a soft hand, and wait the whole system to grow and to develop. Today, they just rape it. If you fall in love with a woman, everything you do with this lady you are in love with, and hopefully she's in love with you. This is a very sensitive, very empathetic, I don't know how to say it, process. You you are in love.
Yeah.
You understand? And if you just want to get sex and you take a 13-year-old girl, you are just,
A douchebag.
it's like a murder,
Yeah. Yeah.
a small murder. And this is the best comparison to what we do to our horses. A good rider behaves and treats a baby horse as if he is your fresh love you want to marry one day and you want to spend your life with.
Yeah.
And you go very careful. You go very careful, very patient. And if you run into a problem, you try to find out and you try to find a solution. And you ask somebody, what would you do? And you're a super sensitive person. And the other people, they're just a rapist.
Yeah.
And there's not so much in between.
No, not so much in between.
This is our problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And judges, I would say that many people who rape horses don't want to rape horses, but they are because they want to be with the system. They don't, a young person is not strong enough yet from the personality to step a few steps back or stand outside the ring. You, as a young person, you want to be successful, and especially in your country, success is first level, second level, third, fourth level,
Yeah.
and shorts. Yeah, so quality of riding. People come in and show me horses. Yeah, it's a fourth level horse. I said, your horse is pacing in walk. The horse is hanging on the reins. If you take the full bridle off, the horse is not even, you are not even able to hold the horse in a balanced position.
Yeah.
This is horse is not fourth level. This is horse is 0 or -2.
Yeah.
And all the people who stay and can take the criticism have a chance
Yeah.
to get it. If you think you're the greatest because you ride so many horses and you know how to do it, blah, blah, blah. These people are not fixable. You cannot help them.
Yeah. For sure.
Being a good rider, you need to be a wonderful person,
Yeah.
self-confident, friendly, forgiving, open-minded person with a big smile on your face. If you are angry, not negative, frustrated, afraid, in your country, many people are in our country too. The older people, they are afraid of their horses.
Yeah.
If you're afraid of your horse, you mean, but you are full of fear. You cannot ride. It is
Wow.
impossible.
And that horse does not like that feeling of, if that predator is afraid, then I should really be afraid.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, if you cannot walk from carrying your horse on a buckle in a field, you have no chance.
Yeah.
If you need to hang on the reins to control every situation, you sit on a bone. If you can let go in every single situation you want, and the horse just goes on and with the loose rein, everything is fine.
Yeah.
So riding is a question of who I am, how I am, how I feel. If I'm angry, if I'm sad, I'm a bad rider. Riding, classical riding, makes you a better person every single day because you learn to go through all these deep valleys. Yeah, you might have the super ride today, and you go to the stable tomorrow and you think, wow, maybe it's even better today. And you still you get a very bad ride. And then not blame it to the horse, but take this and tell yourself, okay, I can't fix it today, but maybe let's walk in the forest and listen to the birds a little bit. Tomorrow is another day.
Mm.
If you can do this, you have a chance to become a good rider. If you start to fight your horse, you will never become a good rider. You
Well,
cannot force a flight animal to be supple.
yeah, this has been super informative. I'm so grateful that we were able to do this. And how do people follow along with what you do? How do they get more information? All of that good stuff.
So number one, we are just about to create a nonprofit to cover all the people I've worked with in the United States in the last 20 years. I come to the States 3 times a year, May, October, and since the last, I don't know, 8 or 10 years in January. So I'm there quite a bit. And I usually start on the East Coast, several places, and then Minnesota, sometimes a stop in Indianapolis, then West Coast, the Washington State, Seattle area, then Colorado, California. It depends. And I have a lady there and all these people who organize my training since years and seminars and presentations and lectures in vet schools and workshops with veterinarians and all this. Yeah. This is the lady who does this. The organization is Sandy Colling. Sandy Colling, you can find her on Facebook. I sent you all her contact, okay? By WhatsApp.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then you can contact her. She is planning all my tours there.
Yeah. Excellent.
And you can find out what we do, where we are, and so on. And then she can help you to answer all the organization questions. And a wonderful horseman and rider, a cowboy from Colorado, the Denver area. He's very much involved in building up this nonprofit so that we can cover all this wonderful horse people in a sort of organization. And we just in the process to give birth to this thing, name, logo, and all this, because it is so difficult. I tried 25, 30 years long to communicate with the federations, and they all in Germany, in America, everywhere, and they all want the right thing, but they always want to be a little bit pregnant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They do not see it. Say, in a horse, either you have the horse behind the bit and against the bit, or you have it to the bit, chewing soft. There's nothing in between. I always say you cannot be a little bit pregnant. You have to make a decision. Do I want to ride a horse in balance, or do I accept the leg mover, low back, curled neck, running into the reins, hang on one hand, crooked from the ears to the tail, fighting for life every day, 1 hour?
Yeah.
Or do you want to have a nice, elegant dance partner swinging with you and the second best thing on the planet you can feel? A stubborn horse is just
The best. Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is exactly what we try to keep for the next generations and to I always compare it like a virus infection, yeah, to infect more
Yeah. We want to
people
attract more people.
to get, because if you get this feel a few times, oh, a horse who collaborates with you, who is in balance with you, this makes you addicted. Yeah, this is just a dream. And then classical riding is the coolest thing on the planet. And we will not run into problems with the animal welfare people like Peter and all this
Mm.
stuff. Yeah, they do when they say we have to get rid of riding because they abuse horses, because too many people abuse horses.
Yes.
Of
Exactly.
course, they do not see how many people are wonderful with their horse. There are many good guys out there.
Yeah.
Even they make some mistakes, but there are many. They have a good heart and they love their horse. Many make mistakes because they don't know better and because you cannot learn the riding in 2 years. So it's okay to make a mistake, but you should never abuse your horse.
Yes.
A mistake is not automatically abuse. And if you cannot come out of this problem zone, there should be help. And our new nonprofit hopefully offers help for people who want to ride correctly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was excellent.
Have a nice day.
You as well. All right, that's a wrap for today. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button so you never miss what's coming out next. And if you got something out of it, send it to a friend or share it on social media. Tag me so I can say thanks. All right, guys, I'll see you at the next one.